In today's world, corporate life is generally represented as monotonous, gray, and painfully boring. And while the 9-to-5 and cramped cubicle life is definitely out there are a few people who get to live a working life that might just be the equivalent of heaven on earth. We're talking, of course, about the few lucky souls who get to work at Googleplex, the home of, you guessed it, one of the most important corporations in the world, Google. And if you're interested in finding out more about this out-of-this-world massive complex, stay tuned and watch the video till the end, because today we're going to take a deep dive into this California icon. Now, to start off, let's talk about the complex. History. Located in Mountain View, California, the sprawling complex sits right in the heart of Silicon Valley. And with neighbors like Microsoft, Netflix, Samsung, and Mozilla all bunkered down in their own multi-million-dollar plants, let's just say the building is in pleasant company. But a lot of the similarities, at least in the origins department, start to end from there. Because unlike the Apple Park or some other iconic headquarters, the Googleplex site was not actually made for Google or even commissioned by them. Instead, the original building was the home of a Hollywood effects company known as Silicon Graphics, which, among other things, were behind the dinosaur mechas used in the original Jurassic Park movie. And interestingly, even after purchasing the 36-acre land in 2003, Google did not deny or paint over the site's history. Instead, it incorporated many of the original elements, including some dinosaur mock-ups that look over the megacorporation's workers today. The Googleification. Now, in the early 2000s, Google was just starting to grow into the multifaceted corporation that we know today. And as such, they needed a new command center from which to control this empire. And when the people at Google and the soon-to-be Alphabet Incorporated saw the massive campus, which incorporated a ton of green spaces, open areas, innovative landscaping, and most importantly, lots of light and color, they found it perfectly suited to be home to the kind of company that they intended to become. And so, starting in 2003, the site designed for Silicon Graphics started getting leased off to Google to move into as their headquarters. The same year, Google hired South African architect and interior designer Clive Wilkinson's firm to execute the future that they envisioned for this new form of technology. And complete the dream they did, incorporating modern, innovative ideas that to this day are simply not seen anywhere else. After the complex redesign had been completed in 2006, Google signed the deal by purchasing the site and its assets for a massive paycheck of $319 million. And so after learning the history of this truly iconic building, the question that we should now try to answer is, what's in there? To quote a movie with an aforementioned connection to the site, let's just say that when designing the site and choosing what was to be on it, Google spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
We spared no expense.
Spared no expense.
From the very beginning, outside the complex itself, you start to see icons and imagery, all of which represent something important to Google's ecosystem. From the large, colorful logo to the massive soft statues representing the little Android bot and the many versions of the operating system, chances are you're probably using it right now, to the interior spaces, which include a massive wall of screens, broadcasting live search queries from around the world, reminding the workers and the visitors alike about the importance and alive nature of the entire system. In the lobbies, you can find giant rubber walls, lamps hanging from the ceiling, and in many places, pianos, all of which go to create the exact kind of environment Google wants to create, one of color and fun, in sharp contrast with the concrete monoliths of sterile glass and light buildings that most of us picture when thinking of a large tech headquarters. And speaking of sterile lights, we also see one of the most defining features of the entire complex: the environment. One of the most important things that were not only carried over from the original Silicon Graphics campus, but improved upon by Google's people, was the emphasis on mixing interiors and exteriors as much as possible. As a result, the outer lawns, ponds, and many walkways are all incorporated as much as possible into the interior spaces, like the conference rooms and general working areas. And one of the ways they do this is by extensive use of glass walls. Mix that with a design philosophy that emphasizes the use of large open spaces instead of separate rooms, and generally has quite high ceilings, and you get one of the best naturally lit corporate spaces that you can find literally anywhere. And it only starts to get better from there. You see, one of the ways that the original complex was able to have such large open areas surrounding the corporate building bits was by having the entire car park, which by the way is capable of housing 2,000 cars simultaneously, all underground. And while that is great for the aesthetics on the landscape, it also means that for smaller movements around the campus, which are not uncommon seeing as the entire campus is situated in the equivalent of multiple family farms worth of an area, employees basically have no way to go around on their own. And that's where one of the most iconic features of the campus comes in: the bikes. Small, convenient, and most importantly for Google, colorful, there are very few companies providing items as useful and as pretty as the Googleplex bicycles. Basically, these red, green, yellow, and blue painted bicycles are all part of one collective fleet of cycles and small scooters found over the campus. And best of all, they're all shared, meaning you can take any bike from the many bike parking areas, take it to where you want to go, and just leave it there for someone else to use. Add to that the fact that what you're cycling through is basically the equivalent of a large, well-designed and maintained park with colorful sidewalks, hidden statues, and Easter eggs in the form of sculpted hedges, and it's really not a shocker that the cycling bit has been such a massive success at the place. But let's say instead of going somewhere specific, all you want to do is go somewhere away from all the din. Well, in that case we have the pods. These futuristic-looking circular seats are something taken straight out of Star Trek, and their purpose just might be even more magical, providing employees with a space in which to relax, center themselves, and concentrate on their work without any distractions. And it's not like working with other staff members is a pain either, because in line with the rest of the company's movement toward mindfulness and mental health, the entire staff is divided into groups of 3 to 4 people, all of whom work together. The result of this is that the group size allows employees to bond together and work well as a group without causing the alienation that is often attributed to working in large workforces. And that is far from the end of the other mindful activities promoted by the campus. According to a large number of insiders, Google enacts a policy with some of their workers under which they are allowed to spend as much as 20% of their work time on side projects completely unrelated to their current goals. Moving on from that, what about the times when you just don't want to work, on the main goal or otherwise? Well, for such break times, Googleplex is nothing short of a wellness center. There are tennis courts and ping pong tables, there are volleyball and frisbee grounds, as well as billiard tables, and most excitingly, many arcades situated all over the campus. And by now, you're probably wondering, if they're providing all of that, why not just go out and start feeding the people for free too? And as much as you'd try to be sarcastic, that is actually the exact thing that the company does. That's right, employees at the Googleplex are treated to completely free meals. From breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even snacks, all completely free of charge from the dozens of cafes and snack rooms over the area. According to at least one estimate, this food program alone costs Google nearly $72 million every single year. To wrap up the list of things to make people jealous, the campus has in place swimming pools, which are basically the treadmill equivalent of actual pools, open working spaces, mind-centering spaces, campus-sanctioned free massages and medical checkups, and free Wi-Fi across the entire area and in the buses that go to and from the complex. To summarize, the nature of the complex and the company itself is very much like the name of the place, because what many of you don't realize is that a Googleplex is not just a mixture of Google and complex, but is instead a mathematical term representing 10 raised to the power of 100 digits. One of the biggest numbers to be used in general math, and a perfect analogy of the kind of positive excess shown at this masterful place. Do you think that the Apple headquarters beats this Googleplex? Click this video on your screen to find out. With that, take care, and I'll see you guys next time.